Now, let's welcome the bride and groom. Everyone, please give them a big round of applause.
With that, the host announced their entrance. As soon as they took their seats, the doors of the venue suddenly opened, and a figure appeared. To everyone's shock, the figure barged into the venue.
I'm carrying his child. Cancel the wedding, old lady.
I was slightly shocked that what I had feared had actually come true. So, you two are going to ruin the reception and continue this farce. Well, I had a slight suspicion this might happen. I quickly took off my dress and, with a beaming smile, said, "Thanks for taking the worthless guy who cost me $1 million.
What?
My name is Kathy. I'm a 35-year-old office worker. Recently, my engagement and marriage to my longtime boyfriend from university, Christopher, were officially decided. However, I have some concerns. It all started at a celebration party held a week ago after Christopher's company completed a project. Everyone, great job! Cheers! From now on, I'll be attending these parties as the president's wife." As I was thinking this and enjoying the party, I noticed a young woman I didn't recognize sitting right next to Christopher. I asked the employee sitting next to me.
Her name is Valentina, 24 years old. She just joined the company about half a month ago.
I see. Thank you for telling me. I stood up and moved next to Christopher. Oh. Are you new here? Nice to meet you. I'm Kathy, Christopher's fiancée. I emphasized the word fiancé. However, Valentina looked back at me calmly and said,
I've heard about you from the president. I'm Valentina. Nice to meet you. The president has been very kind to me.
Christopher was grinning foolishly. Hey, Christopher. Can I have a moment with you later today? I need to discuss something about the wedding.
I also have something I really need to discuss with the president. I've been a bit confused about how to proceed with my work lately. Could you please take the time to explain it to me?
Valentina asked Christopher with an upward glance.
Well, if it's work, it can't be helped. Sorry, Kathy. I'll listen to the wedding stuff over the weekend. Can I prioritize the new employee today?
Okay, I understand. Work is important. I played the understanding girlfriend and smiled brightly as I answered. 2 months after attending the company party, Christopher's behavior had clearly changed.
Hey, Kathy. About the wedding, I was thinking of having a simpler ceremony or just registering the marriage. Do we really need a wedding?
But my parents are really looking forward to the wedding.
That might be true, but I still have company debts. If we waste money on a wedding, people might say I should pay off my debts first.
That's so.
Besides, simple weddings are trendy these days, right? Considering we're already 35. I'm sorry, Kathy, but I don't think there's any point in having a lavish wedding.
When you put it that way, I can't argue back. I thought, but the discussion ended there. After that, Christopher's behavior continued to change. He claimed to be busy with work and avoided seeing me except for wedding preparations. Even when we were together, he seemed absent-minded. I couldn't shake the feeling that the new employee, Valentina, had something to do with Christopher's recent changes. I kept pondering over it, trying to come up with a careful plan. 6 months later, just before the wedding, I had agreed to Christopher's wish and changed to a very simple, modest wedding. I would wear a wedding dress, but there would be no entertainment. The wedding was a small gathering with only close family and friends, enjoying a meal together. The simple preparations were a relief, but honestly, the thought of breaking off the engagement had been crossing my mind, and I was prepared for it. On the day of the wedding.
Oh, Kathy, you look so beautiful.
Really? I'm glad we could reach this day safely. You've grown up so well.
My father said, tearing up.
Kathy, you've been through a lot, but from now on, build a happy home with Christopher. Sob.
Oh, Mom, don't exaggerate. Don't cry. The ceremony hasn't even started yet. The ceremony began and flowed into the reception. I was relieved that none of my worries had come true, but that relief was short-lived as my worst fears became reality. Standing in front of the reception hall doors, my heart was pounding.
Now, let's welcome the bride and groom. Everyone, please give them a big round of applause.
With the host's energetic voice, the doors opened, and the spotlight shone on us, filling the hall with applause. As the bride and groom, we were supposed to greet the guests who had come to the venue, but suddenly, the doors of the hall opened, and a figure appeared. Everyone turned in surprise to see the figure standing there with bloodshot eyes. To everyone's shock, the figure barged into the hall. It all happened so suddenly that I couldn't comprehend what was going on, but as the figure approached, I realized it was Valentina. She brushed past the staff trying to stop her and walked briskly towards Christopher and me. Stunned and unable to understand what was happening, Valentina grabbed the host's microphone and said to me,
I must apologize to you, Kathy. I've fallen in love with Christopher. I knew he was engaged to you, so I tried to restrain myself, but Christopher kept telling me he loved me more than you and that he would break up with you. I should have waited until he properly ended things with you before starting a relationship with him. But now, I'm carrying his child, so please cancel the wedding, old lady.
I was slightly shocked that what I had feared had actually come true. Everyone in the hall was frozen for a few seconds, unable to grasp the situation. The staff hurried to restrain Valentina, but she screamed,
Don't touch my belly! Stay away from my belly!
Causing further confusion and making it difficult for anyone to intervene. Valentina, this is the reception. We'll talk later, so please stop now. Christopher, I'll talk to you later too. This isn't some kind of performance, right? The staff seemed flustered, indicating it wasn't a planned act. Amid the commotion, my father took the microphone and said,
Christopher, we are here to celebrate your union. Don't you think you owe us an explanation? Tell us clearly, is what this woman said true?
As my father finished speaking, Christopher, who had turned pale, was handed the microphone and began to tremble. Despite being in the middle of the reception, he suddenly started apologizing desperately.
I'm sorry. I can't marry you, Kathy. What she said is true. I want to be the father of her child. So, please break off our engagement.
He then tried to move towards Valentina.
What are you saying, Christopher? Do you even understand what you're saying?
I instinctively grabbed his arm to stop him, but he shook me off without even looking at me and went to Valentina.
Honestly, all I can say is I'm sorry. Kathy, you love me, right? If you wish for my happiness, please understand. I know I'm being selfish, but my feelings won't change.
With these words, the hall erupted into chaos, and both families and friends began to boo.
Are you kidding me?
You want to be the father of her child? What nonsense.
Enough. This is outrageous. Do you even realize what you're saying?
Relative 4. What do you think this reception is for? No amount of apology to Kathy will be enough now. You jerk.
Should I post this video online? Public execution.
What a psychopath! Go sit in the electric chair.
The reception hall turned into a scene of chaos, with people either angry or leaving in disbelief. Even if you two continue this farce by ruining the reception. Well, I had a slight suspicion this might happen. Actually, I noticed a while ago that Christopher's feelings were drifting away from me, so I had been preparing myself for this. I was ready for the wedding to be called off at any time.
What? Really? Thank you, Kathy.
Despite the guests hurling insults at Christopher, he shouted joyfully, and Valentina looked satisfied beside him.
Well, I didn't expect this to happen on the day of the reception. Since when have you been involved with Valentina?
For the past 2 to 3 months.
Was it at that drinking party?
At that time, I was just happy that Valentina relied on me. I had no ulterior motives. Please believe me.
How can I believe you when you've been cheating? What do you plan to do about the reception now? We have no choice but to cancel it. And given what's happened, of course, we'll be breaking off the engagement. Christopher, you'll cover the cancellation costs of the reception.
Of course, I'll pay the money.
And to make it clear that I was not at fault, I'll also be claiming compensation.
I understand. I'm really sorry.
Hearing Christopher's response, I immediately took off my dress with a big smile and said,
Thanks for taking the worthless guy who cost me $1 million.
Huh?
Valentina looked surprised.
What? Didn't you know that you can claim compensation from the person you cheated with?
I thought this was a perfect opportunity and laughed wickedly.
It's only natural to claim compensation for stealing my fiancé. Moreover, you've caused trouble for everyone here, so you'll be paying dearly for that. Didn't you know that? It's troubling how ignorant you are. Well, maybe it's because you're so ignorant that you did something as stupid as stealing someone's fiancé.
I deliberately insulted Valentina and laughed mockingly. I figured this would hurt her pride and make her retaliate.
What is that?
See? I did it.
I don't mind paying compensation. I'll pay it. After all, Christopher is the one who will end up paying, and he's a wealthy company president, So paying compensation for both of us is nothing. Right?
Oh, really?
So, even if you claim compensation, it won't hurt us at all. Got it, old lady? Do you even know the going rate for compensation? It's around $5,000, or at most, a little over $10,000. Were you imagining tens of thousands of dollars like in dramas or movies? That's fiction, you know? Kathy, you haven't quit your job for the wedding, and you're not pregnant. Although you've been together since college for over 10 years, the engagement period wasn't that long, so it doesn't affect the compensation amount. So, no matter how high you set the compensation, we have plenty of grounds to request a reduction. Based on my experience, the man pays $5,000, and I pay $5,000, making a total of $10,000. That's the most you'll get. If it's that amount, we'll pay it all together.
Based on your past experiences. Oh, so Valentina, you've stolen other people's men multiple times before?
Hey! Valentina! What are you talking about?
Christopher was flustered by Valentina's sudden change in demeanor.
Oh? Christopher didn't know? It must be quite a shock. Valentina, who has always played the role of a demure lady, suddenly showing her true colors. But this is who she really is. And the cancellation fee for the reception? Well, that's just a bonus. She manipulated you into changing to a modest wedding plan to keep the costs down. So, you have no chance of winning.
After saying this, Valentina tilted her head and, once again, put on the mask of a demure and cute girl that men like.
Make sure to divorce him properly, okay?
Valentina declared her victory with a smug look. Hearing her words, I responded with a defiant smile.
You think Christopher can easily pay around $10,000? Well, maybe $10,000 is manageable. But what about the $1 million I mentioned earlier?
What? $1 million? What are you talking about? Did the shock of having your reception ruined make you lose your mind? And where does this $1 million come from?
Oh? Didn't Christopher tell you? This $1 million isn't for breaking off the engagement or the reception cancellation fee. It's a legitimate claim for the return of investment.
What? A claim for the return of investment? What is that?
10 years ago, when Christopher started his company, my parents invested $1 million for the building, necessary equipment, and operating funds. Although some repayments have been made with interest, the agreement was that the investment would be converted into shares once Christopher's company went public. Even if it didn't go public, there was no set repayment period as long as there were no demands. But now, thanks to you, all of that is ruined.
What? Why?
That agreement was based on the premise that I would marry Christopher. If I'm not marrying him, there's no reason for my parents to invest in his company.
Is that true?
Hearing my words, Christopher started to panic. And rightly so, because even though the company is doing well now, Losing $1 million suddenly would deplete its funds quickly.
Of course. Why should my parents have to put up the money when I've been cheated on and had my reception ruined? I've already discussed the possibility of breaking off the engagement with my parents since Christopher started acting strangely. If the engagement is truly broken off, they'll immediately notify him to withdraw the investment and claim the return of the funds. We've already prepared a lawyer to ensure the $1 million is returned promptly.
No! Please! I'll definitely repay it, just not all at once.
So, Dad, please.
Christopher has no right to make such demands. Honestly, Christopher, you brought this on yourself by acting on short-term desires without considering who was investing in you. There's no sympathy for you.
I want to forget this horrible memory instantly. I thought we could trust you, but you've ruined Kathy's wedding day.
You were easily deceived by a calculating woman. Well, if you can't even think that far ahead, there's no hope for your company to grow. If we had married, I would have boarded a sinking ship.
Eek!
Valentina, whose plans had been thwarted, stomped her feet in frustration.
Don't mess with me. If that's the situation, I won't get married. I thought I could live a good life because he's a company president with money. If I have to pay $1 million, all that's waiting for me is a life of poverty. I'm done. I won't marry this man. I don't need him.
Well, that's inconvenient for me too. I don't need him either.
We're not getting married. What about the baby?
I'm not pregnant. That was a lie. I thought if I said I was pregnant, you'd be easily fooled and break up with Kathy.
What? You liar. So it was a lie after all. Well, even if it were true, I would have done a DNA test to confirm if it was my child.
You didn't use protection, and now you're saying it's not your child.
Don't get cocky just because we had a few intimate moments, you lowly employee. You should be thanking me, the president, for taking care of you.
Everyone was stunned by Christopher's sudden change.
Well, both of you. In the end, it's good that you're not pregnant. It would have been sad to see you sink with this sinking ship. Oh, and just because Valentina decided not to marry Christopher, it doesn't mean my compensation claim is cancelled. Just so you know.
Huh? That's ridiculous.
Of course not. As planned, I'll be claiming compensation from the person who caused the breakup. So, what's the going rate? $5,000? $10,000? Well, if I hire a good lawyer, I might be able to get a higher compensation. If I get the $1 million back, I can hire a very good lawyer. Let's see how much we can squeeze out beyond the usual rate. Oh, and if Valentina isn't marrying Christopher, he doesn't need to pay her compensation on her behalf, right? You'll have to pay for it yourself.
No. That's impossible.
If it's impossible, you shouldn't have gone after someone else's man in the first place. You reap what you sow. If you can't understand that, you shouldn't be having an affair.
Wah!
Realizing she couldn't escape, Valentina finally broke down in tears. I looked down at her and laughed.
Hey, Valentina. Thanks for taking the worthless guy who cost me $1 million.
What? Wait.
But you were a bit sloppy. Silly girl.
To everyone who came today, I sincerely apologize for ruining the reception despite your kind attendance. As you may have guessed, I learned of his infidelity today. Naturally, I have no intention of forgiving him, and while it is regrettable, I cannot marry Christopher knowing the truth. Therefore, I vow here that I will not marry him, and this wedding is null and void. I am deeply sorry for showing you such a disgraceful scene despite your busy schedules. We will return the congratulatory gifts you have given us. I am very sorry, but please take care and leave once you have finished your meal. I said this and asked the venue staff to return the congratulatory gifts to everyone at the reception desk. After that, my parents, Christopher's parents, and I apologized once more to the guests who came to the reception and informed them that we would return the gifts before leaving the venue. Feeling empty and overwhelmed by this outcome, tears began to flow. I was sad and frustrated, and I apologized to my parents repeatedly, but they comforted me. A few hours later, we gathered the concerned parties and relatives to discuss the future. My parents and Christopher's parents seemed very angry, perhaps exhausted from apologizing to the guests. My parents, relatives, and I confronted Christopher.
Did you think you could get away with this? Think about what you've done.
I just thought I had to take responsibility because I believed Valentina was really pregnant.
Have you lost your mind because of that woman? A decent person wouldn't have a physical relationship while engaged. What do you plan to do now? Don't think you can get away with this.
I was thinking. I thought it would work out somehow. I never expected a claim for the return of the investment.
As your mother, it's heartbreaking to see how empty-headed you are.
We won't support you anymore.
No! Please.
Christopher, my former fiancé, was disowned by his parents on the spot and made to sign a pledge.
Kathy, I deeply apologize for what our foolish son has done.
Christopher's parents repeatedly apologized to me, my relatives, and the guests, including on the day of the reception.
I might have said this at the reception, but since there won't be another opportunity, please say whatever you want.
Having regained my composure, I accepted Christopher's father's proposal and said to Christopher,
As I said at the reception, I will proceed with the claim for the return of the investment. I will also claim $30,000 for the cancellation fee of the reception and compensation. I won't reduce this amount by a single cent. If you resist, we'll go to court immediately. If you refuse to pay, we'll seize your precious watch collection. Christopher's parents, please ensure this.
Yes, leave it to us.
We'll make sure he pays.
So, Christopher, do you agree?
Christopher was visibly shaken by my attitude, which he had never seen before. Seeing him like this, I thought it was pathetic, but I also realized it was the first time in 10 years that I had shown such anger towards him. Normally calm, my intense demeanor must have been overwhelming. He was quite scared and reluctantly agreed. After that, I broke off my engagement with Christopher. My parents, who had been waiting for my go-ahead, immediately contacted our lawyer as soon as the engagement was officially broken off and notified Christopher's company of the withdrawal of their investment. Faced with a sudden demand for the return of the $1 million investment, Christopher's company quickly fell into financial trouble. Unable to cover operating costs, the company soon went bankrupt. I heard from our lawyer that Christopher now lives in a dilapidated apartment, barely maintaining a minimal standard of living while doing manual labor every day, burdened with the remaining debt. However, as the daily grind of manual labor became too much for him, he eventually turned to his parents for help. This is where the disownment agreement came into effect. Since he had legally severed ties with his parents, his actions were against the rules. When Christopher's parents heard about this, they said,
"We agreed to cut ties during the last discussion. You signed the agreement, didn't you? If you continue to involve yourself with our family, I'll call the police. Just because you're our son doesn't mean we'll overlook this. I don't want to see your face anymore. Don't come near our house again."
No, Dad!
Christopher was turned away at the door of his parents' house. Hearing this, I honestly thought, he turned to his parents even after signing the agreement? Serves him right. I feel so relieved. But that relief was short-lived, as he then came to my workplace. He probably thought I would be easier to manipulate than his parents since we hadn't signed an agreement.
Kathy! I was wrong. I'm not seeing Valentina anymore. So, can we get back together? Please come back to me.
He said.
Listen, who would want to get back together with an unemployed man, isolated and abandoned by his family and friends, and burdened with massive debt? Even if you were a woman, you wouldn't think so, right? It's pathetic that you can't see yourself objectively.
Is that how you treat someone you were engaged to? That's too harsh. Where did the love go?
Love? Don't be ridiculous. How can you even use the word love? You got involved with a younger employee and abandoned me at such an important moment as our reception. And after saying those things in front of all our acquaintances at the reception, you have the nerve to talk about love. It's unbelievable that you would demand that from the person you betrayed. How shameless can you be?
But even after all this, Christopher didn't back down.
All right, then can you at least lend me some money? I'm starving and on the verge of dying. Please help me.
By this point, I was completely over him, so my answer was clear from the start.
No way. You idiot. Deal with the mess you made yourself.
Since then, he kept coming back, persistently asking to get back together, but it was causing trouble for my colleagues, so I explained the situation and had him banned from the company. I also warned him,
if you continue to bother me, I'll call the police.
After that, he never showed up again. I heard rumors that Christopher is now job hunting while carrying a huge debt. He seems to be juggling multiple part-time jobs while looking for a way out of manual labor. Meanwhile, Valentina, his affair partner, also became unemployed after the company went bankrupt. She broke up with Christopher and is now buried in debt due to my compensation claim. I heard she has to work until late at night. Well, knowing her, she's probably looking for a new victim among the customers at her workplace, but unfortunately for her, her current night job is manual labor at a factory. My uncle, who runs the place, was informed through our lawyer about her being a person of interest, so everyone at the company knows about her before she even started. She'll soon realize that she can't get away with anything. This is what happens when you try to deceive people. I hope both of them reflect on this and live a decent life from now on.
How did you like this story? Please subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.